The pinup, or basically the penciling stage, is very hard. It's always been very hard for any artist. Trying to have a layout for whatever it is you're trying to draw can be very difficult, no matter what it is, whether it's cartooning or realistic or it's a video game. Having the idea of what it is you're trying to draw is extremely difficult, no matter if it's a bigger project or a smaller one. Trying to get the exact layout of what you're trying to do down is always difficult. It is always hard, but it does take time to understand. No matter what project I'm doing, I always tend to focus heavily on the layout stage before I even go to do the pinup of the actual drawing itself. Figuring out what it is I'm trying to draw, whether it's anything in general of what character I'm doing, and figuring out all that stuff in that stage is always difficult. But some tips on the layout stage is always keep your layouts handy, because it is extremely important to your finger drawing or just drawing in general or painting. Coming up with that layout is always key. As you can see, there's tons of big projects that I haven't put into any time on because trying to figure out that layout and trying to have the reference, which is extremely key, and also understanding the source material of what you're trying to do. That is the biggest key to what it is you're trying to do for a layout. Understanding your source material, your reference, and your figures. Understanding, understanding where it is and what it is you're trying to achieve. Now, it is okay to make mistakes in your layout stage that you won't realize, especially in a big project. I have done tons of big projects, some that aren't even finished, because I'm still trying to iron out those layouts and understand what it is I'm trying to achieve when I'm working on something. If it's big or small, it doesn't matter. It's always important to understand your source material, always have reference, and iron out your layout first before doing any type of project. It's a common mistake that I've made as an artist tons of times when you're working on a bigger project, especially. Because I've done tons of painted posters and realize halfway through that the layout, there are some elements that are flawed in it, which you can iron out in the OG drawing that you're doing. But it's important to have your layout be flawless, so this way you understand when you do the project itself that in the rough sketch phase, it's important to already have everything figured out. And some simple tips that I can give you is understanding the source material if you're doing something that you yourself don't really understand. Always have your reference key if you're drawing figures that you personally don't know. And if it's an original project, make sure you understand what it is that you want first, because it can always look better in your mind's eye and it comes up looking flawed when you actually do it. I've made that mistake tons of times, and it's okay to make, but sometimes if you really want it to look like what you saw in your mind's eye, it's okay that it doesn't. Another tip that I can give is it doesn't have to look and completely be superly overly impressive. Sometimes it can be or should be, but you do not have to force yourself to deliberately impress and push people to a standard like, oh, wow, that does look good. Like, you don't have to do that all the time, especially if you're doing a rough sketch. It's okay to be messy. It's okay to look not as good. Just have an ironed out layout. That is the most important tip I can give.